What did you talk about here at the AFA conference?
Well, today we were here to talk about the whole day is really on the left, and what we decided to talk about today was how the left really operates. The theme was the Long March, and I thought it was important to point out that the Long March is really a Gramsci homage to Mao. And so to understand how the Long March really works, it's Mao's Long March. And then we wanted to break that down to really try to point out to people that what we're really confronting is something called political warfare. And of course, people typically hear you say political warfare and they think it's the Republicans and Democrats fighting. Actually, that's the Maoist insurgency model. And the key things we like to point out in this type of model is the way we talk about the left guarantees we can't understand what the left is doing. And what we wanted to point out is in the Maoist insurgency model, there's a couple of key pointers to look at. When we say deep state, we really should be thinking counter state. Okay, when we say fake news, we really should be saying agitation and political propaganda. And when we say a series of other things, it really feeds into a well-defined strategy, which is the political warfare model, the Maoist model. And so what we tried to do is show that when you put it in that frame, you start to see all these things pop. Like, for example, the main thing in the Maoist model is creating a mass line. Well, that sounds out there, but what is a mass line? Mass line is Mao goes to farmers and gets them mad at issues. Mao went to the working class. They got them all mad. They all get mad. The educators all get mad, and they all start coming after the politicians, and the politicians are hit by this mass line of the population. And so what we're trying to show is, how does that operate? It operates in narratives. The left operates by narratives. We think in line and block chart. The left creates a narrative. So what's one of our little buzzwords? Political correctness is the enforcement mechanism to the multicultural narrative that executes cultural Marxism. And so what we then try to show from this process is there's two things that come out of the political warfare model. The way we think about things today, it doesn't show up. One is splinter movement theory. If we don't understand splinter movement theory, we are fooled into the idea, for example, moving off the left, that the Muslim Brotherhood is the moderate alternative to Al-Qaeda. But in political warfare scheme, what you actually have is a situation where Al-Qaeda is the violent splinter that allows the Brotherhood to become the moderates you can come to work with, you not understanding every time they do something, you're moving further to that position. That's splinter movement theory. And the Brotherhood needs Al-Qaeda, just like SPLC needs Antifa. See where this goes? And incidentally, Antifa was founded in 1933 by the Comintern, Communist International, the Soviet Union. It has a very long pedigree. The other thing that's very important that isn't accounted for in how we do political analysis is something called controlled opposition. Going back to the question of controlling the narrative, I can get the established Republicans to do the mission of the left. How? By having them respond to our narrative. If they talk about their issues in our language, what it means is they will come to our narrative. So they become a controlled opposition. And what you see is, why does the left hate Trump and they're not afraid of established Republicans? Because Trump attacks them where they're the most vulnerable, and it's their main attack, which is at the narrative level. They directly attack the media. Why aren't they afraid of establishment Republicans? Because they conform to the narrative. And why is this important to understand political warfare? Because so long as established Republicans decide to express their views using their narrative, they will become what's called in militaryese the defeat mechanism of the left. Why? Well, just take a look at it. They've been elected and had majorities many times in the last 10 years, but they controlled Congress, they controlled the Senate, they had the White House until recently. So they had it all. So why isn't that nothing happened? Because they didn't want it to happen, because they could have made it happen. So what are they doing? The base gets demoralized, and they decide not to show up. So the established Republicans are the defeat mechanism of the left because they demoralize the base as the left disenfranchises them. And that's what you see going on. There's more to it, but I know you're probably out of time here. But the other part of it is the main attack of the left is an attack on identity. Okay? So you are an American man. Okay? Well, they will attack something that says that it's racism for you to say you're American, and they will call it genderism if you call yourself a man. And for everything that defines you, they will come up with an other to attack it. Now, your first response is to attack the people they identify. Well, they had nothing to do with that. You have to remember that the other is just something to negate your identity in your own mind. So these are all the things that go into political warfare that are completely off the radar of almost everybody who does political theorizing in our world today, which is the mean, which is to say, our side only says about the left what the left allows them because they're captured by those narratives, and they will always fold at the critical point. That's why the left is terrified of Trump, because even if he doesn't fully understand why he terrifies them and brings them out in the open, they are still not afraid of the established Republicans. And so our goal was to bring this whole discussion out and say, listen, stop talking about this as like this is just extra partisan politics. It's not. This is political warfare. This is about destruction, not only of America, but the concept of America, not just as a political entity, but in the minds of Americans.